So I'll just be really careful with that stuff. But anyway, I'm gonna try to go through this. So hopefully at the end of this video, we're not talking about how I broke the new flail mower. Anyway, all right, let's give it a shot. All right, so I'm kind of upset with myself. Not with the UTV. UTV did a great job, but I did not hit the record button. And I can't go back and do that. Hey, what's going on, folks? Bienvenue. My name is Wade, and this is Sabine River Valley. Well, a couple of videos ago, I showed y'all the MATV-48XT from Victory Tractor Implements mowing. It's a ATV, UTV mower, pull behind mower. And I showed you it mowing. And at the beginning of the video, I guess I had a little bit of clickbait there where I was going to go into some really thick stuff and cut it. And I did, and it did a great job. And I showed you the after, what it looked like afterwards. But I actually didn't have the camera filming while I was doing it. So I figured I owe y'all some footage on that. And so today I'm going to, hopefully, if it's dry enough back there, I'm going to pay that off. I'm going to make payment on that. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook up the 48XT. We're going to take it back there. We're going to try to go through some really thick stuff. I might find some other stuff back there that I also want to cut. So I might get some footage of that too. But also, I'm going to talk to you about some things, again, that I've brought up, some things that I don't really like about the mower. But each one of those, I think I've rectified in my own way. I think I've figured out a way to make that work for me where I don't have a problem at it at all. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that is tough about owning one of these mowers, I mean, I don't like it, but it's not it's not this brand specific. It's just the nature of one of these type of mowers is how heavy they are. With a tractor, we can kind of, set the implement down behind it and have a way that the tractor can always back into it, pin it in, and then the tractor itself, using its hydraulic 3-point lift, can lift that super easy, and we can move it around and take it to places. But the connection is a whole lot easier because you're not trying to manhandle those implements. Well, on this one, you've got to get it connected to your whatever you're pulling it with, right? I've got a UTV here. You can use an ATV. You could probably use a small vehicle, small truck if you've got something like that. I don't know, but whatever you've got to get it hooked up. And one of the things about this is that you can move these wheels into positions that make this a smaller footprint. You can have them where I have them, which is kind of, I guess, maybe the default way of doing it. But if you want this thinner, you can pretty much move those wheels in. You could probably take these side bars off, and then you could get through some pretty, small areas, some pretty tight areas. There is the belt box over here on the side that sticks out maybe 3 inches. So that's something that you would have to just, kind of be mindful of. But 48 inches is the cut, another 3 inches. So what, we're at 51 inches there. So maybe 52, something like that, 53 inches you could get between. And that's, that's a good tight fit if you needed to do something like that. So if you were to move those wheels back, what happens is the heaviest part of the mower, which is the motor sitting on top of all this metal, right? All this steel. Now, instead of you having the wheels in the center where they're kind of the pivot point and the weight is on the pivot point, which makes this a little bit easier. It's still heavy, but it makes it a little bit easier to move. Well, if you move those wheels back to that small footprint setting, Now the wheels are way in the back. No longer is the kind of your pivot point on something that makes it easy for you to tilt it back on. Now you're lifting the whole entire weight of the mower up with the engine and everything yourself to get it onto, you know, the hitch on whatever you're pulling it with. Like in the first video I did when I did the setup, I mean, I had the wheels on in one of those configurations and it was a beating. So what I did is I went out and I got me a trailer jack. I got this off Amazon. I'll try to put it on a link down in the description for this so you can see what I used. And I put this on here and it makes this a whole lot easier to get this up in the air where I can get something underneath it. So that's the very first thing that I didn't really like about the mower, but it was a real easy fix. Now this cost me like 40 bucks. I think Harbor Freight has Haulmaster, I think is their products. I think they have one that you can get, you know, on sale for $20, $30. If you're good at welding, you can get weld-on ones, right? And you don't need all the extra brackets or anything like that. The only thing that I would say that I'm kind of worried about that I haven't done anything with yet is when I move the mower into an offset position, I'm hoping that this still turns. I think it will. You know, this rotates. When you unlock this and turn it, it rotates. I think it will fit here when the bar moves over. I just haven't done it yet. So let's just get this hooked on and you can see kind of how easy it is now to hook it on. So that was real simple. Basically, I just put my bighorn into neutral so I could, you know, move it back and forth myself. You know, and UTV like this is fairly light and you can move it a lot easier than a larger vehicle. So I didn't even crank it. I just put it in neutral and was able to kind of adjust it right underneath the hitch. So the next thing on this that I'm not a huge fan of, and it's just the nature of owning one of these, is having to run the cables up to the cab. You've got your throttle cable, which you definitely have to have, but then this one also has a safety controller that you use this little clip in, and then you clip the other end to yourself. And if you were to fall out or something, this would pull out of the safety switch and it'll shut the motor off. So I think this is really important. I like using this. So it just means now that I've got two cables that I need to run up here. At first I was using zip ties, but the problem with zip ties is it's not a fast connection. Now, if you have a zip tie that's one of those that, you know, I know they have some that you can unfasten and reuse. If you have one of those, that's a whole nother horse of another color, right? But if you're just using regular zip ties, you zip tie it and then you have to cut them every time you want to do this. And that means you've got to have something with you to cut them, and you've got to have the zip ties, and it's just not an easy on, easy off thing. I mean, you can make that work, but it's not an easy on, easy off. Well, the cables themselves, they come with these little Velcro ties on them. So you get one of those, and this is what I would rather use, and I'd rather have more of these for these cables. So that's what I did, is I went out and got me some cable ties that are Velcro, and I'm going to use these to secure the cables to the UTV. Now, of course, here on the back, you want to give yourself a little wiggle room. So you don't want to pull these tight. And then when your UTV turns and the mower isn't exactly behind it, it pulls on it. You don't want to do that. You want to give yourself a little bit of room, but you don't want it hanging down where it's going to get caught on something very easily. So I guess there's a chance, because there's cables coming across, that it could always get caught. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually fasten this here, and then I'm going to let it come up from there. So it's not going to go all the way across and then under. And I'm not going to worry about going under, because when you go under here, that's still more work trying to get it fastened. And I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible, right? Get this set up as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to go over the top here, because there's no reason why not to go over the top for this. So the next thing I want to talk about is still part of this whole connection process, is something that they did good and something that I don't like the way they did. And the first thing is your box here, your safety box. It has a connection that you can leave on the ATV or UTV, and then just come in here and connect anytime you want. So it makes it real easy to connect this and then disconnect it. So this is kind of right, I can come in here and look, that's connected, it's ready to go. That's great. The problem though is that on the throttle cable, they didn't do that. The throttle cable has a clip here that goes around some type of tubing, but it uses you've got to screw this in. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that every time. So I think I found a solution for that, and we'll look at that right now. So there's a company that sells things on Amazon called Nightlight. They make light bars, LED light bars. I've got a couple of them on another UTV of mine, and they're great. They make really good products, actually. And they have these mounting brackets for things like that. So they are meant to mount onto some type of tubing, and that's what we're going to do here. Is we're going to mount this on this tubing, and then what I did is I went to the local hardware store and I bought me a bolt and then some other hardware to kind of use with that. So I've got me a wing nut, which will make this much easier to take on and off. Then I've got a regular nut, the bolt, a couple of washers on here. And the reason that I've got the other nut on here is that I'm going to send the bolt through the throttle cable, and then I'm going to lock it down with the regular nut. Then I'm going to send it through this tubing, and then I'll thread on with the wing nut to lock it onto this tubing. So anytime I want, what I'll do is I'll always leave the tubing on the UTV. I don't have to take it off, but I can just use the wing nut to take the throttle cable on and off. So that's my plan here. There might be some better solutions, I don't know, but this is easy for me to figure out and do. It cost me, it did cost me like $5 in hardware. So now the bracket might have been, I think it was like $10 for a set of two. So anyway, it's not that much, but just know that, you're gonna have to spend a little bit of money to do this. So let's get this done real quick. All right, the one last thing that I'm not a big fan of on this mower, and it's kind of the design of this specific one, half of it is, and it is the adjustment that you use to lift this, the front of this up or down. There's a turnbuckle underneath here. Sometimes you'll have a turnbuckle on top that's a little bit easier, but it's still very difficult to adjust. So what I did is I came in and I bought an attachment that you can add to the top link or the side link of a tractor, put it on the turnbuckle, and now it's a ratcheting system. So I can just put this in and ratchet it. So I've got much better control of this now. So the other day I came through here and I cut this, and it was really, really thick. I got a limb out of it, and there was a bunch of this stuff in here. So right through here that we're looking at is the swell that water follows when it runs off of my property. And there's the tree that I didn't want to hit, but there's another tree over there. I'm going to try to run through the middle of this today. I'm hoping it's not too wet. So this is what we're going to try to go through. And hopefully this time I'll have the camera rolling. So, all right, let me get some cameras set up and we'll get her going. All right, folks, she did a great job. And hopefully this time, y'all got to see her do a great job. I got stuck one time, and it's because this huge oak tree, one of the big roots is right here. And I got hung up on that. So I had to back up a little and then kind of gun it. And you can see when it came over that, it didn't hit those. But everywhere else in here, I see one on that last pass, one little thing that it didn't really get. Now remember, some of this you're seeing bent over is because the wheels stick out further than the mower. So the wheels are hitting that, the mower is not. So, you know, you can keep inching over if you need to, or you can put it in that low profile mode and get it over and not have those with it though. But I mean, this is, you saw that I went on this side, I went around twice and then came back through twice. And then I went through this one and came back through this one. So I'm doing each spot I'm cutting in here, I'm doing twice. But it is, I mean, it cleared this out. So this is a drivable trail now. So that's it. For the price of this, and when I'm not just talking about whatever the mower cost, but you've got to have a tractor, right, to pull a good flail mower. And if you're using a normal tractor flail mower, but if you've got a small piece of property and you've already got a four-wheeler or a UTV like this is all you need to do a lot of the work that you need to do. This is great. You know, this is the 48-inch cut. They've got a 52 and a 62 that's a little heavier duty model. I think it's actually called the heavy duty model. So you've got some different sizes there. So if you're looking for something to do trails or clean up some thicker, you know, thumb size, maybe around that size brush, and you've got an ATV, you just don't have the money to spend on a tractor and then the mower after that. Well, I'm telling you, this is an option for you. This is definitely a good solution for that. It does a great job, and I'll continue to use this thing. I'm gonna have some fun with it. So anyway, I think that's it. That's what I wanted to show y'all. I felt really bad about not getting this footage last time. So it's, you know, I've been watching this, and we had a few dry days in a row, and I thought maybe this is enough. So, and it was. We had no problems with the actual, you know, mud or anything like that. You know, we just got hung on that huge root, but we were able to overcome that. So anyway, all right. Well, thank y'all for watching. I really appreciate it. And Lord willing, I'll see y'all on the next one.